All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at fan theories
Oh, yeah.
in popular culture. We asked you to send in some discussions about fan theories,
Hmm.
and you sent in some great stuff,
Yeah.
but three really huge franchises: Star Wars prequels, Harry Potter, and the MCU.
Yeah.
So our goal today is to kind of like pull apart these discussions and figure out what these theories tell us about like fandom and
All right.
about storytelling itself. So
Yeah.
let's get started with Star Wars.
Okay.
One theory that just keeps coming up again and again is the idea that Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side wasn't just because Palpatine was manipulating him,
Right.
but like it was because he was so afraid of losing people and he wanted so badly to have control.
Uh,
What do you think about that?
well, I think that theory has stuck around so long
Hmm.
because it really shows us what people are looking for in a villain, especially a complex villain.
Mm-hmm.
If Anakin had just been evil for no reason, it wouldn't be as interesting. Instead, we get this guy who's struggling with these really normal emotions,
Mm-hmm.
like fear.
Yeah.
And it makes his fall so much more tragic. It's not just some plot device,
Yeah.
It feels like
Yeah.
the consequence of his own issues.
I see what you mean, yeah. So another theory kind of building off of that argues that the prequels are actually a commentary on fascism and totalitarianism.
Interesting.
You see the democracy slowly falling apart, a
Yeah.
charismatic leader comes to power,
Right.
and then there's this clone army that's created under false pretenses.
Mm-hmm.
It really kind of reminds you of things that have happened in real world history
Yeah.
and politics, you know?
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how easily people connect the dots. Between a space opera and these political systems, it shows you how powerful storytelling is to get people thinking about things like, how seductive power can be
Mm.
or how fragile democracy really is. It makes those ideas more accessible and engaging.
Totally, I agree with you. But we can't talk about prequels without mentioning the Jar Jar Binks theory.
Uh-oh.
The Darth Jar Jar theory. I mean, the idea that this clumsy Gungan is secretly a Sith Lord is just, it's wild.
Yeah.
Why do you think people love that theory so much?
I think it shows you how amazingly creative fans can be. I mean, sure, the movies don't really support that idea,
Mhm.
but just the fact that people can look at Jar Jar and turn his every clumsy mistake into a master plan is pretty awesome, and it's just fun. It's that speculative side of fandom,
It's definitely entertaining, yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a few different theories. What do you think, all of this theorizing, what does it tell us about the impact that fan theories have had on the Star Wars franchise?
Well, one thing's for sure, they definitely keep fans engaged.
Yeah.
They make you think critically about the series. You start questioning things, digging deeper into characters. You even debate the bigger messages of the films. And then beyond just talking about it, you see all this amazing creative stuff coming out of it. Fan fiction, artwork, all inspired by these theories. It adds so much to the Star Wars universe.
Right, I agree. All right, let's switch gears now and talk about Harry Potter.
Let's do it.
There is this one really interesting theory about Voldemort's Horcruxes.
Okay.
It suggests that they're not just like ways for him to avoid death, but they're also like a physical representation of how messed up his soul is
Oh, wow.
because he's done so many terrible things, you know?
That's a fascinating perspective. It adds this whole psychological layer to his character. I mean, his soul is so broken that he has to literally split it into pieces just to survive.
Yeah.
And when you think about the themes of the whole series, it really highlights the importance of, being whole, having integrity, and it shows you how destructive
Yeah,
ambition and evil can be.
right. Yeah. So building on that idea of deeper themes, another theory argues that Harry Potter is actually a commentary on prejudice and the need for acceptance. You think about how house elves are treated, or werewolves, or the whole pureblood supremacy thing. It's all there.
It makes you wonder if fantasy stories
Mm-hmm.
can be a way to talk about real-world social issues, in a safer space. This theory definitely suggests that it's possible. It makes you draw parallels between the wizarding world and our own world. It makes you think critically.
For sure. It's a really interesting way to look at it. And then, of course, there's the big debate about Snape.
Oh,
I mean, is he a hero or not? That's the question, right?
right.
The theory says that even though he does a lot of bad things, he's ultimately a good guy who redeems himself in the end. But his actions are so complicated, it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Snape is such a complex character. That's why people have such different interpretations of him. There's evidence to support both sides. He protects Harry. He's a double agent against Voldemort. He makes huge sacrifices. But then you also have to consider his past, his prejudices, his bitterness. It's not simple. And that's what makes him so interesting. A well-written character like that makes people feel strongly, makes them think.
Right. He's definitely a character that people have strong feelings about. So with all these different theories floating around, what's the overall impact been on the Harry Potter fandom?
Well, just like with Star Wars, fan theories have really energized the fandom. People are having all these online discussions. They're rereading the books with a more critical eye. And there's just so much fan-created content out there.
Hmm.
Fan fiction, artwork. It all keeps the world of Harry Potter alive.
Totally, I agree. All right, last but not least, let's jump into the MCU.
Okay.
This is a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
One theory that became really popular after Thanos snapped his fingers in Infinity War was that it was actually a commentary on overpopulation and resource depletion, like those real-world issues we're facing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty thought-provoking.
That's a really relevant interpretation, especially now when we're also worried about the environment. It connects those fantastical events in the MCU
Yeah.
to real-life problems. It makes people
Yeah.
think about ethics and solutions, even if those solutions are kind of extreme.
Right, it definitely makes you think. And then there's this other theory that's a little more out there.
Okay.
It says that the entire MCU is a simulation
Wow.
created by some advanced civilization. What do you think about that?
I mean, that is one wild theory,
Yeah.
but it really gets you thinking about some pretty deep philosophical questions, like what is reality? Are we all just living in a simulation? Even if the movies don't really support that idea, it's just fun to consider. It sparks the imagination.
Yeah, it definitely does. And finally, there's a theory that's been around for a while about the multiverse.
Okay.
It says that the MCU isn't just one universe, but a whole bunch of different universes. Right.
With infinite possibilities. And this was before the multiverse became a big plot point like it is now.
I see.
So what was the fan reaction to that theory back then?
It's interesting how fans pick up on little clues and try to predict what's going to happen next. Even before the multiverse was officially introduced, fans were pointing to inconsistencies and loose ends as evidence that there must be alternate realities. But, for so many years, the MCU felt very consistent, very interconnected. So the evidence seemed to point more towards a really well-crafted single universe with lots of different stories that all came together, rather than a multiverse. But it shows how fan theories can sometimes foreshadow what the creators are planning, even if the reasons behind the theory end up being different from what the creators intended.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So what about the MCU fandom as a whole? What kind of impact have these theories had? Well, it's the same pattern we've seen before. Fan theories have really kept the conversation going between movies and TV shows. People are online debating, making predictions about future plots and characters. And there's so much fan-created content out there. Analyses, fan fiction, you name it. The MCU is built on these little Easter eggs and mysteries. So it's designed to encourage this kind of theorizing.
That's a good point. It's definitely part of the fun. All right, so I've talked about Star Wars, Harry Potter, and the MCU. What's the big takeaway here? What have we learned about fan theories?
Well, if we look at all three of these franchises, it's clear the fan theories have a very specific purpose. They help audiences connect with the stories on a deeper level. It's not just about passively watching or reading anymore. It's about actively participating in the storytelling process.
Right, it makes sense. And what are some of the common themes we see across all these different theories?
Well, one thing that keeps coming up is this fascination with character motivation. Fans want to understand why characters do what they do. They want to go beyond the surface. And there's also this tendency to look for social or political commentary. Like, is there something deeper going on? Is the story trying to say something about our world? And then, of course, there's always that question of reality, like with the MCU simulation theory. It's like fans are constantly trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
That's really interesting. So for someone who's new to all this, what's the main thing they should understand about fan theories?
I think the most important thing to understand is that fan theories make the whole experience of being a fan richer. It doesn't matter if they're confirmed or not. They lead to great discussions, they spark creativity, and they make people think more critically. It's all about having fun and going deeper into the stories we love.
I agree with you. So fan theories are way more than just random guesses. They're a powerful way for fans to connect and understand and explore the stories they care about.
Absolutely, and that leads to an interesting question. Why are fan theories so popular? What does it tell us about our need to not just consume stories, but to actively shape them? I think that's something worth thinking about.
It definitely is. Thanks for joining us today.
You got it?
And thanks to all of you out there for listening and for sending in your thoughts on fan theories. Until next time, keep on theorizing, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.